evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's stream. I'm just doing some checks to make sure Rumble's actually working because I can see it on every platform except Rumble. Yes, there we go. Well, if you're watching on Instagram right now, tune into Rumble. I've posted a link on my story. I'm going to be showing stuff on screen that you won't be able to see fully on Instagram because it's in portrait and we're doing this in landscape. But I'm doing it to notify Instagram viewers as well that we are live. We're also streaming to X and YouTube. They left our last video up. Not that I'm a fan of YouTube, but we do reach a different audience there. So let's see how we go tonight. Obviously, the events of the past week have been very tumultuous. We have a serious escalation towards World War III and nuclear war. We have a former Ukrainian official saying we are officially in World War III. Of course, those statements have been made in the past by Pope Francis, and others have said that we have unofficially been in World War III for quite some time. But now you have more and more people preparing for it. You have countries telling their people to get ready for war. We've also had discussion around civil conscription happening across many European and Western nations for some time. And so it seems like they are desperate to make this move prior to January because Trump is, of course, expected. His promise is to end the wars. And so we'll see whether he's able to maintain that promise. Of course, we know he made some alarming statements about Iran in the past, but he has promised a presidency of peace, and so we're all holding out for that. But will the New World Order wait until January? It's highly unlikely, and so I guess everyone's holding their breath right now, hoping that Putin will exercise restraint despite all of NATO pushing the bear. And so things are also continuing to escalate in the Middle East. There is that relationship with Russia and Iran. What will happen there if the US decides to assist Israel in going to war with Iran? Very, very complicated geopolitical issues at the moment. And so we have done a couple of interviews this week on those topics. I don't want to focus on that tonight, although it is a very serious problem and it is one of the wild cards of the New World Order, along with a major cyber attack. And I think they could all be interconnected. But how does this all connect with our main topic of digital ID tonight, or digital verification to use social media? I put in the title that countries around the world, including the United States, are planning this. And of course, the first response, or one of the first responses, was, oh, this will never happen under Trump. Well, I'm sorry to inform you that it's already going to happen in Florida in 2025. It's approved. There is a bill currently in Congress, and we have a member of the Trump administration, a very significant one, that has said that this needs to occur. And so we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Of course, we know that Trump has said that he is going to tackle the censorship industrial complex, particularly being done under the guise of mis and disinformation. This is a huge uphill battle for us all, because anything governments around the world don't like, they just deem mis and disinformation. Australia has, it seems, defeated the mis and disinformation bill. You would all know, if you're watching from overseas, from other countries other than Australia, that we covered that quite extensively over the past week, and also spoke with Senator Malcolm Roberts about some other tricks they may have up their sleeves. But it looks like the Greens have now opposed the mis and disinformation bill, which means it's dead. And the Greens may also oppose the social media age ban. So this is going to be really huge if they do. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, even if you're watching on YouTube, get on Rumble, Zeee Media, all one word, Zeee Media, all one word, and join into the chat there and tune in, you know, where you can actually see the full screen. And also, if you're on YouTube, it's just uncensored on Rumble, and that's where we encourage people to follow. If you're not following us on Rumble, click the follow button, click the like, share your thoughts in the comments, and we're going to get into some of this news. So I just want to go through this article from Rebecca Barnett, who does a fantastic job. She has posted that urgent, the Australian government is rushing through its social media age ban. And of course, I notified on all our socials that people had less than 24 24 hours essentially to make their submissions for this. Really, I think that they should be using the digital ID submissions, because this is one in the same. All the people that oppose digital ID, and the government wasn't listening to them, but they should be using those submissions, because really you almost can't tell the difference between the two, and I'll explain why. So the Australian government is rushing through its social media age ban. The Labor government introduced new legislation today to enforce a minimum age of 16 years for social media. For some reason, they're in a huge rush. Why? Well, I dare say it's because the US, which is their ally, has made statements about ending military alliances with countries that don't support US values, which has free speech enshrined in the Constitution. But this is a very slippery slope, because essentially banning kids from using social media under the guise of child safety may not necessarily, or at least they deem it isn't a constitutional violation. And certainly that's in the case in Florida, where it has actually passed, but we'll get into that. The social media age ban has bipartisan support. The report's due, next Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. And Australians were afforded only one day to provide their submissions. A motion was put by the Greens, which were requesting to extend the Senate inquiry into the bill through to February. The Greens have been surprisingly they've had a common sense approach to this. And so I'm grateful for that. I'll always give credit where credit is due, even if I am diametrically opposed to someone's ideology. And, I've been pretty consistent in that. I think I give Senator David Shoebridge props quite a bit, even though he's very left. The majority of the coalition were absent from the chamber during the vote, which allowed Labor to block it with the support of a few Liberals. And so we've encouraged people this week to make those submissions. I hope that people have, at the time of this live, that opportunity for submissions has closed. Anthony Albanese got fact-checked by Community Notes on X when he said, today, he was so proud of it, we're introducing our bill to make 16 years the minimum age for social media. And of course, Elon Musk retweeted that, and it was quite glorious to see, with that little community note on there that said, this bill will require identity or age verification for all Australians to use social media, including adults. The government confirmed this is the only way to enforce it. And that is true. When Senator Shoebridge was asking about this, he was given the answer that yes, every single Australian would have to verify their identity in order to use social media to prove that they are over 16. So Senator Matt Canavan has posted a bit of an update, which I want to take people through. He says, we're on the cusp of a huge win on the Miss Disinfo bill, but I know many of you are now concerned about the under 16 social media ban. If you want to look at this legislation, he's linked it. He says, at this stage, there is a huge majority of the Senate in favor of passing the social media ban next week. While I share concerns about the impact of social media on young children, I'm not sure that an age verification system can work. I would have liked to have a proper Senate inquiry to investigate these issues. Unfortunately, there was nowhere near the support for that. Instead, we ended up with a 3-day inquiry, far from ideal, but better than nothing, he says. And then he encourages people to go and make their submissions. He says there is some good news. The government has said that YouTube will be excluded, although this will be done through ministerial declaration. It's not in the bill itself. I'll be seeking more clarity on this and other exclusions. I just want to pause there, because it's amazing that they've said YouTube is going to be excluded. Why is that amazing to me? Well, when the e-safety commissar, Julie Inman Grant, began going after X, she is potentially a disgruntled former Twitter employee. Senator Alex Antic has actually grilled her on her potential ties to the CIA. Her responses were very nervous when she was being questioned about those things. And when she decided that she was going to go after X and fine X for not responding to a question that they posed, and this was all the headlines. X is refusing to respond to our inquiry on how they're keeping children safe online. I'm paraphrasing, okay? But when you read that report, you find it's not just that they were requesting. It was also what X is doing to monitor or control quote unquote hate speech, which of course is in the eye of the beholder. Hate speech is a ridiculous term because most of the people, crying hate speech are just snowflakes who can't handle a bit of criticism. And so when you read further into that report, you find that YouTube also did not respond in the required time frame as X also didn't, but YouTube was slapped with a warning while X was slapped with a fine. And so the double standard for YouTube has been obvious for quite some time when it comes to free speech in Australia. And why is that? Well, YouTube, of course, and Google are very much part of the censorship industrial complex, if you ask me. YouTube frequently demonetizes people for saying things that they don't like. And it was absolutely a bedrock of false medical information during COVID. They would silence anyone who dared to question the narrative, and it has become a little bit more free since, but it's still not where it needs to be. So it's interesting that the same standards won't be applied to YouTube, apparently. So he goes on to say the age verification requirements in the bill are broad and only require social media companies to take quote unquote reasonable steps to verify someone's age. And there's nothing explicit in the bill to require digital ID or any other form of ID to establish age. Why is that? Well, that's because it's linked to biometrics. I will talk about that in a moment. But we have a mainstream media outlet, and I'm calling them that because that's what they are. They supported lockdowns. Many of their hosts supported the mandates, and really demonized people during COVID. Backdoor way to control access to the internet. Elon Musk rips into Albanese government over new social media age ban. And what I found really astounding was let me go through this. So social media giants can face penalties of up to 49.5 million if they breach the laws which aim to better protect the well-being of young Australians online. I think part of the reason why social media platforms such as Meta are up in arms are because of not only the potential loss of income of users no longer using social media, but also the potential fines. If those financial penalties weren't there, I think that they wouldn't be so up in arms about it. And I say all of this because Meta has actually condemned this decision. I don't think I've loaded that in, but if I just go to it, Meta has said that they are committed to creating a safe online experience for young people. They'll respect any age limits introduced by the government, but they've already invested significantly in understanding age and ensuring age-appropriate experiences on their apps. Furthermore, the government's approach, and they're talking now about Australia, will likely require each app provider to collect personal identification or biometric data from all Australians in order to prevent under 16s from accessing the services, an insufficient and burdensome process for everyone. So, and of course, this will result in revenue loss because any apps that enforce this, people will no longer use them. So I think that that's part of the reason why social media companies are up in arms. But I think, as far as Elon goes, he has said that this is a backdoor way for the Australian government to control the Australian people, and it is absolutely the case. Musk delivered his blunt assessment of the legislation on Thursday, and he says, seems like a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. And that, of course, amassed more than 17 million views, which is the government's worst nightmare. Someone actually saying what this is. And when he reshared it, the community note was on there. So that was absolutely glorious. Now, there is a politician, MP Zali Steggall, claimed the ex-owner was looking after his own interests. And she says, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, so in some ways I would say he's looking after his own interests. And then she goes on to say that he's obviously a multi-billionaire trying to preserve his business that I think at the moment is going downhill with a lot of people leaving X for platforms like Blue Sky. This is really hilarious coming from Zoe. I would say that this is, potentially misinformation on her part. The X platform is, of course, not perfect, but growing every single day. There was a bit of a liberal dummy spat when Donald Trump won the election, and they all said, we're all going to Blue Sky. And what's actually happening is that a lot of them are returning to X because of the proliferation of child sex exploitation material on the app. In fact, the Blue Sky, I'm actually going to read that to you as well. I didn't plan on talking about this, but they have actually said, in the past 24 hours, this is Blue Sky Safety. In the past 24 hours, we have received more than 42,000 reports, an all-time high for one day. We're receiving about 3,000 reports per hour. To put that into context, in all of 2023, we received 360,000 reports. We're triaging this large queue so the most harmful content, such as CSAM, is removed quickly. So they're receiving an influx of child exploitation material. Of course, I don't think Julie Inman Grant is banning Blue Sky. She hasn't mentioned the fact that there is a serious proliferation of child sex exploitation material on Blue Sky. We haven't heard one bit about that in the media. I haven't seen Julie Inman Grant fining Blue Sky, but or even raising awareness. If the Australian government and Zoe Steggall are so concerned about child safety, you would think that MP Zoe Steggall would talk about how child sex exploitation material is a very big problem at the moment on Blue Sky, but apparently she wants more and more people to flock there. It's really, really bizarre. And of course, we've seen very, very disturbing videos from Blue Sky, which in fact I may even load up for everyone as I'm talking, because this is some of the most disturbing stuff you've ever seen. You know what? It's too disgusting. I'm not going to. Basically a feed of adults dressing up in a sexual way, wearing nappies, posing, posting those photos. And on top of that, we also have people who are identifying as trans-aged and telling people, look, even though I'm over 19, my trans age is actually 11 to 14, and engaging in sexually inappropriate behavior on the app as someone who identifies as 11 to 14. So it is a really serious problem on Blue Sky. The fact that Zoe Steggall is sitting here arguing for this social media age ban, talking about the harms of social media, but promoting this platform, Blue Sky, that has this admitted problem by their safety team of child sex exploitation material, is actually seriously alarming and probably requires investigation of why that MP would be promoting that app while they're having those problems. Of course, we go to enhanced MyGov. I want to show everyone this because MyGov is making some changes, and they've actually said here that, it's such a reliable, for anyone watching from overseas, MyGov is a sort of portal, if you will, where you access all of your government services. And they're saying that on July 2021, we began the Enhanced MyGov program. It actually openly admits here that Enhanced MyGov will be backed by digital identity to provide a consistent, simplified, secure, and personalized experience for people interacting with government services. So they are, of course, initially going to say that this is voluntary and until it's not. Now, I wanted to show everyone something interesting because this is a post from someone who I would say is of a different political persuasion to me and most of our viewers, from what I can see, just judging by some of the language. For example, disclaiming I'm not a cooker, or saying that, I saw in another post my child was radicalized by Jordan Peterson. So I dare say this person is more left, but I don't want to make assumptions, just based on a few posts. But what I really respect is that this person has taken the time to review this legislation and is raising the alarm. And so I'm really, really, grateful to the analysis that Sam Connor has done. And everyone can check out that account, CRIP Rights on X. So Sam says, okay, I've spent some time analyzing the kids' social media ban bill, and holy, this is bad. You have one day until tomorrow to get a letter of submission in, and I think it would be great if you did. She or he, I'm not actually sure of what this person is. David Shoebridge, Adam Bant, Senator Jordan, and tagged a few others there. So Sam says, firstly, here are the key parts of their bill and their hidden impacts. Surveillance infrastructure creation, and Sam lists the sections there, requires platforms to, quote unquote, take reasonable steps to verify age. Of course, the government always uses this reasonable steps language, and you know, what they consider reasonable is most often actually very unreasonable. And because they've called it a reasonable step, that means it's like a liquid term, and it can change as the wind blows or as the government gets more and more socialist. And the reason why this is important, by the way, for people watching this internationally is because, as you know, Australia has always been a test case for the New World Order, for the implementation of this UN AI World Society nonsense agenda. I hope X doesn't cut off my feed after saying that, because they did last time I spoke about the AI World Society. They don't like that. And I would encourage everyone to watch our videos on that. I'll bring them up on screen a bit later. But that reasonable steps is it's just a fluid term that they can change as they see fit. Allows collection and storage of identity verification data. It also permits sharing of data with quote unquote third-party verification services, which could literally be anyone that, and likely will be anyone that is willing to compromise your data or give the government exactly what they want about you, whatever dirt the government wants on you. Most concerning is section 63F, which, while claiming to protect privacy, actually allows data sharing if there's consent, which can be buried in terms of service. Who actually reads terms of service, guys? You sign up to an app, or they do an update to your terms of service. You get an email and they tell you, oh, if you want to read it, go to this page on this day, we'll be updating it. You know, they make it especially difficult for people to actually know what the updates are. Creating a centralized identity verification database. Weak deletion requirements allows government to access to verification data. So the government will be able to link your online activity with your ID. Data collection framework. Broad definition of age-restricted social media platform. It captures any service with significant purpose of social interaction and gives the minister power to expand definition through legislative rules. So that is, again, how this always works. You know, even if they introduce a more watered down version, you know, they argue about this, like some of the discussions that we were having, even the discussion I had with Senator Malcolm Roberts, where he's like, okay, even if it passes, we're going to remove the censorship aspect, but we're going to at least ask for accountability or transparency from these apps. My response to that, and I don't believe his intentions are sinister at all, he's proven himself to be very pro the Australian people and pro freedom, but my response to that was, actually, Senator Roberts, even though I really like you and I trust your intentions, I don't want you to be the one, or anyone in government, to be dictating to social media companies. These are private companies, and if the people decide, okay, you know what, I'm getting shadow banned too much, I don't like this policy, I don't like the way that the app is going, we'll move elsewhere. And that's exactly what's happened over time. Facebook, Instagram, absolute trash. People went to Telegram. Tens of thousands of my subscribers went over to Telegram because they couldn't see my content on any of the other apps, and the free market decided. And that's how it should work. I don't want any government involved in dictating to social media platforms. We'll decide if we don't like the way they do things. Captures any service, oh sorry, I read that, requires platforms to track Australian user location. So it forces the collection of identity documents, and it allows the minister to add such other conditions through legislative rules. Big note on that, this is bad. They can expand it to whatever they like. Look at the NDIS rules and see how that legislative process was misused only recently. Control mechanisms gives massively concerning powers. The minister can specify an implementation date. They can modify any of these requirements through legislative rules. And I think I forgot to finish my point before, but what they always do is they introduce this horrendous bill. People argue about it. The Senate argues about it. And then they pass a watered down version of that bill that still allows them to later go in and change things as they see fit. And this is the way that it always is. So this bill needs to be banned forever. It needs to be banned from ever being reintroduced again. Banned. But I digress. Enforce compliance, issue penalties, all of that. No limits on what verification methods can be required. And it can be modified without new legislation by bureaucrats. It can be expanded to other age groups. Yes, adults. Creating user tracking capabilities, building monitoring systems, content monitoring systems. Again, future control framework. They can share data with authorities, identity verification systems, user tracking capabilities, content monitoring, data sharing. As you can see, this is all government access to your data, to your thoughts, to your speech. Right now, if you say something in your lounge room or if you post something, they have to go and scrape it using AI, like Julie Inman-Grant does, by the way. E-Safety Commission at one point was scraping every single day obsessively anytime someone mentioned Julie Inman-Grant or e-safety. Really creepy stuff. But this will just constantly be linking your opinions, your activity online, even your browsing, everything to your identity. And of course, that is building a social credit system, ladies and gentlemen. That is what that is. Eventually, you will be persecuted based on what you post online. And as someone who's been debanked, I can tell you it's not a nice feeling, but that is the future that they want for everyone. Cutting off access to your money, cutting off your ability to travel, cutting off your ability to buy meat and dairy. The UN's just declared that we need to not only cut off meat and dairy consumption, but also tax people and potentially retrospectively tax people as well, retroactively tax people for their prior meat and dairy consumption. These people are absolutely insane. The bill's section 63C3 specifically ensures advertising and revenue generation won't exempt platforms, suggesting commercial surveillance potential. And then, of course, the real world impact is the political monitoring, behavior tracking, movement control through location verification, information restriction through the platform access control, population surveillance, creates a framework that could easily be repurposed for broader surveillance and control beyond age verification. This is why I say I think this person may be on a different political spectrum. I know I sound like a cooker. I'm not. I know what I'm talking about. This is bad. Read the legislation. And let me just say, Sam, I despise that you use that derogatory term cooker, but I understand why you have. You're talking to an audience that thinks that people like me and others who are concerned about this are cookers. Hopefully we can come together and realize that the government has been after us all along. And one of the ways that they continue to do what they do is by keeping us divided and keeping us believing that the other side is Satan. And so someone said, oh, we don't need to, you need to just listen to the politicians or whatever. It's a crazy response. But Senator Shoebridge said, thank you for this excellent thread. Good work, Senator Shoebridge. Thank you for reading this and taking this very seriously. Now, the other thing that Sam Connor has raised attention to is and cool fun plans for biometrics in the trial. What could go wrong? So this is on the they're not saying age verification. They're saying age assurance. Okay, this is the term that they were trying to correct Senator Shoebridge on. It's not age verification. It's age. What's it called again? What do they call it? Age assurance, which is potentially even worse, ladies and gentlemen, because it is basically the technology using things like your keystrokes, your biometrics, and collecting all of the information about you in real time using AI to determine your age, which is essentially building your digital twin at all times. And so this testing involved a $6.5 million age assurance trial, which Chisholm explained is distinct from age verification. Yeah, because it's even worse. While Chisholm noted age verification requires verification of identity and might involve the use of identity documents, age assurance is a broader term which uses other technologies and tools to assess whether a person is likely to fall into a particular age bracket or not. So for everyone that may be concerned about the impacts on you, I dare say if you're a responsible parent, you've probably already considered not letting your children use social media. And the argument that social media needs to be banned for children because parents just can't control their kids is a ridiculous one. And I don't mean to cast judgment on parents. I know that parenting in this day and age is difficult, but to blame the government for your inability to take control of this situation and demand that all Australians are put under a social credit system so that you can control your kid better, so the government can be your kid's parent, I really disagree with you there. But if you are a parent that is concerned about this, think about how it'll be having your child being detected by having their keystrokes detected, facial recognition or question and answer measures to make assessments about whether your child is a certain age. So, you may think that 16 is an appropriate age for your kids to use social media. By the way, it's not the government's job or mine or anyone's to tell you what age your child should be using it. I'm just giving you my opinion. You may think, 15 years old, my child's more mature. I think that they can have a basic account, just no posting selfies. They want to know what's going on with, I don't know, some horse riding magazine, for example. They like horse riding and they want to see what this magazine posts every month. I'm just giving an example. And that's what they're allowed to do. But every time they do that, some unknown company, some unknown AI is going to be assessing absolutely everything they do, capturing their face and giving it to the government. So now the government knows everything about your child's hobbies. I mean, this is the stuff of nightmares, guys. And that's just the scraping the surface of, how bad this all really is. So we can see that this is a nightmare. We have some Greens that have voiced their concerns about the social media age ban. At this current point, it does have bipartisan support from Labor and Liberal for the most part. And so I don't know how much Australians are going to be able to put pressure on their politicians, although they should be. When I say I don't know how much, I'm saying that the window's closing, but you should be. The same pressure that we applied for the mis and disinformation bill should be applied to this. It's really hilarious that they put two of these battles so close to each other. You had the mis and disinfo and this battle pretty much in the same week. They're depending on people to be exhausted and focusing on the victory of defeating the mis and disinfo bill so that they won't then go and put that same energy into this bill, which I think is in fact even worse. Because the mis and disinfo bill catches you after you post an opinion. This one prevents you from posting an opinion at all. So it is actually worse than the mis and disinfo bill, but they're all rooted in free speech control, movement control, tracking and tracing, and it is the Rockefeller playbook. Now, I want to talk about some of the other countries. And again, people may think, well, this is just Australia. No, it's not. This is being rolled out all across Europe. It's coming to the United States. Whether it'll be successful here or not is, a question. But DeSantis has already done it. So we'll talk about that. But Danish PM calls for 15 plus age limit for social media in the EU. EU's content moderation rulebook has proven to be not sufficient to stand up against tech giants, said Mette Frederiksen. Okay, then we have Macron in favor of Europe. Oh, you can't see that full article. Let me adjust that for you. Macron in favor of Europe-wide social media age restriction for teens under 15. Again, same thing, lockstep, ladies and gentlemen. EU data regulations currently state that teenagers must be 16 to have their data processed, but member states can decide to lower the age limit. We also have in lockstep the UK. Social media ban for under 16s on Australia. Under 16s on the table in UK, and Australia plans social media ban for under 16s. So it's just they're all just doing the same thing, just like COVID. Norway to increase minimum age limit on social media to 15 to protect children. Quebec Premier says he's open to limiting children's social media use as CAQ debates age limits. And if we go down, you can see they're doing under the age of 16, because that's kind of the sweet spot, right? That's where people think, okay, well, yeah, I guess it's not a good idea for teenagers to be using social media. They get bullied on there. It's hard for parents to control. Personally, I was reading a tragic story about a 13-year-old that whose life ended due to suicide from social media bullying. And the mother was saying that the government needs to do more about this. And my question is, why on earth does your 13-year-old, and please don't misunderstand me, this is a horrific tragedy, but why on earth does your 13-year-old have a phone with access to social media on it? Why shouldn't you be focusing on parental education around the dangers of this? What would cause someone to make that decision in the first place? For me, I think that's far too young. And if your child needs a phone, for emergency situations, for goodness sake, get them a dummy phone, one that doesn't have social media. Those phones exist. There are ways for parents to manage this problem and parent their children on their own without legislation coming in and forcing the government into parenting the children. But I want to show everyone, Florida will ban anyone under 14 owning a social media account from January 2025, deleting existing accounts. Manual parental approval will be required for users 14 to 16. Okay, that was in March of this year. And so I want to show you that a new Florida law bans kids under 14 from social media. It's the latest. This is March 27, 2024. It's the latest in a series of efforts by states to regulate social media in a way that protects minors and stands up to legal challenges. But opponents say Florida's law still runs afoul of the First Amendment, and I agree. And it should be challenged. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis earlier this week signed legislation banning children under 14, and this bill goes into effect in January and would force social media companies to delete existing accounts held by those aged 14 and under. Look at this. Minors would also be prohibited from accessing websites with adult content. You could argue that'd be a good thing, but again, you have to prove your age to be able to, you have to prove your age. Now, okay, fair enough. You want to access adult content, you have to prove your age. Just like if you were to go into an adult store, you have to prove your age. If you want to buy alcohol, you need to prove your age. Fine, but how quickly does that then expand to other websites? Social media companies and adult websites would be required to enforce these rules through age verification technology. And the law requires them to delete user data immediately after verification. But of course, maybe Ron DeSantis has said right now, they've got to delete that data. And how can we actually control that? I mean, how many times are private companies required to do something and they don't? And then they leak that information to an adversarial government, for example. I mean, it's just not... It happens all the time. Senators Cruz, Schatz lead colleagues with new bill to keep kids safe, healthy, and off social media. That's right. There is actually a bill in Congress, everyone, that is aiming to do just that, Protecting Kids on Social Media Act. Senator Schatz and Bryan introduced on the 26th of April, 2023. Okay, at the moment it's sitting as introduced, but this is to require that social media platforms verify the age of their users, prohibit the use of algorithmic recommendation systems on individuals under 18, require parental or guardian consent for social media users under 18, and prohibit users who are under age 13 from accessing social media platforms. So how do you think that the US government is going to be able to make sure that users under the age of 18 aren't doing it without parental supervision? Through a digital ID or through age verification methods or age I keep forgetting that term. What was that term in that article? Now I've closed the article and I can't find it. Oh my goodness. The one where they biometrically scan you at all times. So, and people may say, well, that's, it's just not going to happen under Trump. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy in March of this year saying, here's the bill we really need. Ban companies from transferring US user data to foreign adversaries. Ban any government actor, foreign or domestic, from using threats on internet companies to censor or promote speech. Limit all addictive social media in kids under age 16, ladies and gentlemen. That is Vivek Ramaswamy, who's now part of Trump's administration. He's running the Department of Government Efficiency with Elon Musk, who has currently requires your ID to be linked to your Stripe account in order for you to receive payments from the X app. And this is exactly why I'm not monetized, even though I like Stripe and I've had very good experiences with Stripe. I've used them for a long time after getting banned from PayPal twice. I simply refuse, and they know everything about me. Don't get me wrong. They know who I am. They know everything about me. But I refuse to link my government-issued ID to these things because I don't want to comply with that system that is eventually, whether the intentions initially are good or bad, eventually going to mean my complete enslavement. And that is something that people need to be aware of. I'm not suggesting that Vivek's intentions are not good, or that his intentions are evil, or that, whatever. I'm not saying that. He may be, uninformed on what this is actually about. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, for example, Senator David Shoebridge, who, when I was opposing the mis and disinformation bill, I addressed him directly on social media. He replied indirectly by saying people were spreading mis and disinformation about the bill, about my personal concerns. I'm not holding a grudge against him. I'm just saying that he seems to have come a very far way from what he initially thought about all of these digital systems to now opposing a lot of it. And so kudos to him. I really do respect his growth on this issue. So maybe that's what we'll see from Vivek Ramaswamy. But I don't think, and Americans have this, they have this, especially they're still kind of on a high from the Trump victory, and they think everything's just, not all of them, let me clarify, not all of them, but many Americans think it's all just going to be so great, when the reality is there could be things like this that are introduced that they need to be aware of. For example, digital ID may be a very effective way to deal with illegal immigrants. It may be a quicker and more efficient way for the government to deal with illegals. You create a digital ID, and if you don't have all the documents, you don't get one. And whoever doesn't have one, who's not on the database, who's not, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to say that there are times where politicians aren't aware of how dangerous things are. They're not aware of the full agenda, and they may support things that are actually eventually going to lead to our complete enslavement. And that's exactly what it is, by the way. And I just want to take everyone through the UN digital ID. This is actually a United Nations initiative and a Bill Gates initiative. That's what digital ID is. And the UN digital ID, they say that they want to create digital citizens out of everyone. It's a flagship digital transformation project under the sponsorship of the High-Level Committee on Management that is delivering on the Secretary General's UN 2.0 data-driven transformation vision. My apologies. This has all got to do with UN 2.0. So they're planning on transforming the UN. This was done at the Pact for the Future in September, held in the United States, where they are relaunching the UN to their digital transformation. That is, of course, what our regular viewers would know is called the AI World Society. I'm going to bring up, which I talk about all the time. It is literally one of the most important reports I've ever done. And the title is very bombastic, but it is that way for a purpose. It's called AI Apocalypse UN Agenda 2045 Exposed Full Series. So you can go to zeemedia.com, click on the interviews page at the top. I'll just show you where it is. From the homepage, you go to interviews, and then you literally just type in UN 100 and it's the first one that comes up, okay? And it is a very, very important series, the most comprehensive series you will see on the entire internet. I'm not saying that because, I think I'm great. Just telling you, it's extremely well researched. We take you through the whole book, the whole social contract that the UN have written to create these digital citizens. Okay, that is where the agenda comes from. And whenever we say that something comes from the UN, we get labeled cookers, like that lady said. But do you remember The Voice? And I've brought this up before, but I'm going to bring it up as an example here. Do you remember The Voice? The Voice to Parliament, where the cookers were saying this is actually per Article 46 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, because I actually read all of these documents as much as they drive me crazy. I read them all. Article 46, after all of this fluffy language about how they want to give Indigenous people rights, essentially says, well, they're actually subjected to the UN. Okay, guys? They're ours now. We own them. That's essentially what it says. And so we were warning about this, and we were saying this is a Trojan horse because the tribal people all over the world, whether it be in America, whether it be in Australia, these people have their own laws. In Australia, the Aboriginals have Aboriginal LORE. It's different to colonial law, and they have a right to exercise that LORE law. And if they come under the Australian Constitution, they're going to lose that sovereign status. It's just a fact. And we were saying this was to do with the UN, and the Albanese was coming out and saying, oh, this it's got nothing to do with the UN and so on and so forth. And then not that long ago, we saw the world's biggest nature protection conference has agreed to create a permanent body to represent the interests of who? Indigenous people under the UN's Biodiversity Convention. And so what they did, they had representatives of Indigenous peoples, many in traditional dress and headgear, because that legitimizes them, right? They're not just fake representatives who've paid to be there. It legitimizes them because they were wearing headgear. Broke out in cheers and chants at the conference site in Cali, Colombia, as 196 countries agreed on a subsidiary body dedicated to matters of relevance to Indigenous peoples and local communities, which basically in UN cryptic terms means we've established a body that's going to dictate to Indigenous people all over the world. We just couldn't make it with Australia's The Voice, the testing ground where we always get this stuff through. We couldn't do it with The Voice, but you know what? We're going to establish a body anyway and rule over you from the UN. This is where a majority of our problems come from, which is why I'm quite furious that Trump hasn't announced that he's going to be exiting the UN immediately. Maybe he has some sort of an exit plan with his UN representative. I'm going to give him some time and the benefit of the doubt, although I am very concerned about some of the appointees, and I've been talking about that in Telegram. So if you're not in our Telegram channel, go to Zeee Media. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation argue that digital IDs are an effective tool against poverty. A global solution is making them available to millions. So they say that we have a global identity problem. It's really interesting. I don't know how the Democrats are going to spin this one, because they claim that demanding that people have ID is racist. So anyway, our global identity problem, if a person can't prove who they are, can they take advantage of all the opportunities society has to offer, so on and so forth. So anyway, these guys say that digital ID is a critical piece of digital public infrastructure. If you guys haven't seen my huge report on that, I think I called it 50 in 5. 50 in 5, we cover DPI. It is, yes. So they say that they are going to, I called it 50 in 5. So implementing digital public infrastructure safely and inclusively. Digital public infrastructure is basically digitizing everything, tokenizing everything, transitioning us into a digital existence where even your home and everything you own is digitized, tokenized. Everything is on a digital ledger, which can at any point be seized from you if your social credit score is no good. That's where digital ID, social media age verification, and all of this dystopian crap comes from. So I sincerely hope that the American people pay very close attention to what's happening in Australia and make sure that you don't get a similar Trojan horse packaged as something else passed through your country, because it's already been introduced into Congress. And I warned about digital ID in America like a year ago, and then Biden was trying to rush it in before the election. So I'm not just making things up. It's already happening in Florida, even though it is a First Amendment violation argued by many. Then we have accessing what is rightfully due to people became a problem because they were not able to prove whom they are. Well, you know what? I've just thought about it. Maybe the Democrats will say, oh, digital ID, having ID to vote is racist, but digital ID is actually really, really good because that way everyone has equal rights and it's cheaper and whatever. I mean, they'll find a way to spin it. They always do. So that's it in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go through comments in a moment and get your thoughts on all of this. And I'll go through comments on X and Rumble. I'll start with X. Give me a moment because I'm just pulling up a couple of links. Because I want to let you guys know about some amazing... Well, one particular amazing Black Friday deal that one of our sponsors is doing. Of course, we are completely independent. We don't get, Zeee Media doesn't get any money from any, huge companies that control what we do. None of our sponsors have ever told us what we can and can't say. They are free speech supporters, and we're very, very grateful for them. Your support of them. Everything we've ever done is free. Our content, Zeee Media content, is and always has been free. We tell everyone, download it, re-upload it, do whatever you want. All we ask is that you give us credit and give people a place to know where to go back to for more of our work. And we intend on keeping it that way. We believe that the information that we dig into is far too important to charge for. And free speech, we believe, is free. So that is how we stay alive, though, and how we're able to continue doing that and providing this public service, if you will, is through the sponsors that support us. And so we've carefully selected a few of those. We've actually declined some in the past because we don't think it's beneficial to our audience. And so if you are in anywhere in the world, you can go to where that is not the link I was looking for, sat123.com/Maria. If you're on Rumble, the link is in the description below. And they've got some exclusive deals at the moment for satellite bundles. This is emergency communications, which I think everybody needs, especially as world tensions rise. And mind you, if there is a significant chance that this war can be de-escalated, I have always said this, the globalists will go to their wild card, which is a massive cyber attack. I'll bring that up as well. Cyber COVID WEF, because I've spoken about this many times, I should say. What the COVID pandemic teaches us about cybersecurity and how to prepare for the inevitable global cyber attack. Ladies and gentlemen, they say that it's going to be so bad that we're going to have to switch off the internet. The only way to stop the exponential propagation of cyber COVID would be to fully disconnect all vulnerable devices from one another and the internet to avoid infection. The whole world could experience cyber lockdown until a digital vaccine was developed. That's called digital ID, by the way, where the World Economic Forum and those that run it and the UN and Bill Gates and co. make sure that they say, okay, we've had this massive cyber attack. We've had this huge shutdown, huge cyber attack. They'll probably blame Russia, and they'll say, you can't get back on the internet. We just can't trust anyone unless they get their digital vaccine, which is a digital ID, right? So very, very important to be aware of that. That is always their wild card. It always will be until they use it. And so it's important to be aware of that. But with the satellite phone store, these phones will work anywhere on Earth. They are military grade phones. They are encrypted by the satellite phone store themselves, guys. And if you're in the United States and Canada, you can also access their power banks on sale. Massive savings at the moment. $500 off the EcoFlow Delta. $100 off the Delta 2. This one is probably the biggest saving right now. They've also got huge savings on their satellite phone Faraday bags. These work fantastic. You've got shoulder bags for your laptop, backpacks, and lots of other products on there. So we really recommend these, guys. I've been using these phones for a couple of years now, and I couldn't be happier. And because it's encrypted by the satellite phone store, I know that it's secure. They are very, very good and trustworthy people. Stockman Steaks at the moment, I think they still have the offer where you can get, let me just check how big that ham is. Stockman, you can get your pre-orders in for nitrate-free Christmas ham. So get those pre-orders in. Their meat is amazing. They support our Aussie farmers. There's never been a more important time to support our Aussie farmers than now, with the attack on farming accelerating in Australia and across the world. So please go to the link in the description below. Gold and silver if you're in Australia. GBA Group, Gold Bullion Australia Group. This is where I get my stuff from, and they are fantastic. They will be very honest with you about the market, their assessment, prices, all of that. And this is something everyone should be preparing with in light of the looming digital currency, digital ID world that we are in. There will come a time where you won't be able to buy or sell without digital currency. And so there will be an alternative market with gold and silver. I'm certain of that. Black Friday sales at the moment at Above Phone as well. I just want to mention these guys as well. This is a phone, a smartphone that is de-Googled. They also have laptops that are de-Googled. And so this is complete privacy, transparent software. It actually works. And I have these phones as well. You can use the apps you love. You can use alternative apps. It gives you complete freedom, peer-to-peer personal cloud. So it's actual privacy. The government isn't looking over your shoulder. And all devices are $100 off. And if you purchase additional devices right now, phones and laptops, you can get bulk discounts. So you can access our savings there. You've got premium phones at the moment. I'll just bring those up on screen. The 9 Pro XL or the 9 Pro or the 9. These are the Google Pixels that have been de-Googled. So these are premium phones with huge savings at the moment. And of course, you also have other options as you go along. You've got the 7, the 8 Pro, that is. And so we encourage everyone to take a look at their laptops as well. They've got savings on their laptops. So this is a really, really fantastic solution for people who are concerned about their privacy. So check out abovephone.com/Maria. Now I'm going to go to the comments on X, and where can I actually see those? That's what I need to know. Really, really fantastic stuff. So what I just ended up doing was playing the video. I can't actually see the chat in X. There we go. It's only just loaded for me now. So, okay, the comments are still loading in there. So I'm going to go to Rumble and check out the comments on there. All right. No digital warts. Oh, that's gross. I know they're Satanists, but we need to remind them who we are. Yeah, absolutely. We have no fear of these people, but we shouldn't underestimate our enemies. This is why they're doing what they're doing. I don't know what this person's saying. Why participate? Why participate in what? I'm not sure. No cyber attack can break our fellowship with God. Of course, but I think a lot of people underestimate. I'm actually, it's hard because I'm online so much and my work is obviously online. But I'm looking for a little bit of a window where I can actually test what it will be like to live off grid in my house. And I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. I intend on giving it a try very soon. How would I actually live with no power, no communications for a few days? And so I really, dare people to challenge themselves to this. Of course, make sure you're adequately prepared and don't do it in a way that's dangerous to you. But give it a try if you can. See how you would actually go with no comms, no power, no, what would you do with that fridge that you depend on so much? If you have a backup power source, test it out. Try running your fridge off it for a bit and see how long your devices last, and really, really test yourself out. I want to do it. So I'm going to find a window. I just don't know how. I'm not going to post on Telegram for that time, but we'll see. No internet, no Bitcoin. Yes. That is one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of Bitcoin. I've said it many, many times. Where are we? They're chemtrailing South Australia like crazy. This is something that RFK Jr. promised that he was going to stop. He said, we're going to stop this crime. I intend on continuing to hold these leaders accountable for the things that they say. For example, Donald Trump promising no more wars, and then yet you have Israeli media publishing that he's going to give them, maximum use of US weaponry, essentially, come the inauguration day. I mean, that's them reporting that. It's not him that said that. But if he does do something like that, I will be absolutely opposed to this. You promised no more wars. No more wars means no more wars for everyone, including Israel. So that's something. But RFK Jr. absolutely needs to maintain his promise of ending the crime of chemtrailing. Someone said your sponsors are boss. Yeah, we have really great sponsors, really, and like I said, they are supporters of free speech. They're huge supporters of ours, and when you support them, you support us, and you get really high quality products that we've vetted ourselves, we use ourselves. I have products from every single company that we promote, every one of them. Heaven's Harvest here in the US is where I have my survival food. In fact, I just got a protein bucket myself from them, because what I found about their protein buckets, and this is important, guys, if you're considering survival food, let me just take you through this. This isn't about me plugging our sponsor for you, although I have no issue doing that. But when you're picking survival food, and they've got a Black Friday sale at the moment with our link. So if you go to heavensharvest.com/Maria, it'll take you through to the Black Friday sale. But when you actually go to the protein kit, you'll find their protein booster kit, which is the one that I literally just ordered, has beef, chicken, and eggs. Okay, beef, chicken, and eggs. When you look at, and you'll look at the price and you'll think, gosh, that's a little bit steep, but I challenge you, go to other providers, because I made sure of this. Go to other providers and see what they actually include compared to what Heaven's Harvest do. All their food, or majority of their buckets, are freeze dried, which is a massive difference for nutrition and taste. And this has actual meat and eggs in it, whereas a lot of them will tell you, oh, it's a mix of meat and beans, and yet it's mostly beans, very limited meat. But this is actual meat, actual eggs. And so I really do recommend them, and they've even got organic buckets and things like that. So these things actually do matter in a survival situation, especially the amount of protein that you're gonna have access to. So let me go back to, do you know where I haven't been? I haven't been to YouTube. I've got some comments in there. Let me have a look. Legend Maria, great reporting as usual. Love from Australia. Appreciate you. Really appreciate you, Pesh. And you know what? I just want to say that even though this current news that I'm bringing again today, I always seem to bring bad news, but my My goal is always to raise attention and awareness to these issues so that we can stop them, like we did with the mandates, like we've done with lockdowns. You know, enough public outrage about something and they have to pull back. They wouldn't have pulled back mandates if we didn't all protest and get out there and oppose this and continuously hammer this. They wouldn't have. They would have just kept going until everyone was terrorized into oblivion and ending up with myocarditis, you know? And so people power absolutely does work. And the more awareness that we have and the more educated that we are, we can actually stop things before they occur. Me highlighting the fact that the US has this bill already and Governor Ron DeSantis is already doing it. In fact, it's already passed, is an alert for people to keep their eyes open as to what the end goal of this is. And I've given you some resources for that as well, which is the AI World Society website broadcast, the UN 100 broadcast that I mentioned before. So that's always my intention, guys. I'm not thinking that the situation is hopeless. I just want people to be aware of the battle is not over. We've had some wins, but for goodness sake, we have a long way to go. A long way to go. We need maximum liberty for the people without the grooming and weird stuff that we've seen over the past few years. Someone saying they're all in it together, both sides working together. Yeah, that is absolutely the case in pretty much every single country. You don't really have opposition parties. You have uniparties. You have a lot of rhinos in the United States, Liberal and Labor. You really, most of the time, cannot tell the difference between these two parties, at least the leaders of the parties. Peter Dutton, I will say again, pardon, he initially was for the mis and disinformation bill. They're the original authors of the bill. And then he said, no, I'm going to oppose that. But the social media age ban we need. These people are indistinguishable from each other. And so we absolutely, and Senator Roberts earlier this week said we need to understand preferential voting. We have that system. Australians can take their vote to the ballot, but it's like all these nightmarish laws are being introduced before that. Maybe one day it'll be illegal to not vote for the uniparty the way things are going. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's not, we still have a lot of hope and we still have a lot of fight in us. That's the one thing that I just celebrate again and again, because they thought we would give up by now. And yet we've just gotten stronger and more determined in our fight for liberty. And so they can jump off a bridge. No one in particular, just those people that oppose freedom. Someone talking about AI governance, interview Nicholson, 1968 again. I checked out his page recently. He wasn't posting all that much. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with him. I think he's an amazing content creator. He is phenomenal and his research is second to none. Honestly, he's great. I should reach out to him again, specifically about AI governance. This is something I have again and again raised my concerns about when we hear about the Department of Government Efficiency. And I was actually, I'm reporting on something this week on Media Blackout about that. And the goal is to have it all done and dusted by 2026, that it would all be perfect and implemented by then. And so my concern is, just like X utilized a lot of AI, got rid of a lot of employees and implemented AI, I am concerned that the proposition from Elon will be AI governance. And I'm very terrified of that. Not terrified in the literal sense, like I'm not scared. I am very, very concerned about the implications for the world if it goes that way. And we've already seen that AI is not flexible. Grok is not always right. And of course, Elon's been training AI with the X users. And so I do have concerns about that. I have concerns about the misuse of that, maybe not necessarily by him or Trump or anyone, but a future administration, maybe even this administration. We don't know. I don't trust anyone unequivocally. It's just my nature. I'm always going to question. I'm always going to raise concerns. I'm not scared to talk about the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy supported that, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't fully understand. We have to be honest in journalism and approaching these things, regardless of what side people are on. AI governance is an absolute nightmare, and that is the goal of the New World Order, the goal of UN 2.0, the goal of all of these institutions. Someone saying time to take back control of our out of control government, put the checks and balances on them. Next, we'll be banned from sitting and talking with each other in coffee shops. So I agree with you. And, you know, I put out a video that went pretty viral recently about how Australians are not slaves. And we are absolutely sick and tired of having these people who just leech off taxpayer dollars dictating to us how we should breathe, for goodness sake. And it's time to remind them that actually Zoe Stegel, who is encouraging people to use Blue Sky that has a problem with child sex exploitation material when arguing for social media age bans because it's not safe for children. I mean, it's just ludicrous. Actually, you're employed somehow still because my tax dollars, because of my hard work, paying for your wages, paying for the roof over your head, paying for the meal on your table, you are able to eat because I pay my taxes. You are able to go and spew this nonsense that Blue Sky is somehow a good app, you know, on the mainstream media, and people are flocking there when it's actually, you know, shown to not be a safe app. And my taxes are paying for you to say these things that are just false. And so these politicians need to be reminded of that. They need to be humbled again by the people that pay their wages. It's not actually new. I've been saying this for a long time, but I think people are starting to get it. They're starting to get it. Let me have a look at some of these comments on Rumble. How far back do I need to go? And then I'm going to wrap up for tonight. Conor McGregor thinks that Trump will stand with Israel and back them up against Iran. That is certainly my concern. And I've said that if that happens, I will absolutely be on a war path, because a promise of no war is a promise of no war. And to give you an idea of how seriously I take these things, when Javier Milei was running for president, he promised, now he's thinking about it now, but he promised that he would exit Argentina out of the Paris Agreement. Okay? It's the climate accord that is there to enslave your country to Agenda 2030. And he promised during his campaign for presidency that he would exit the country out of that. During his inauguration, while he was being inaugurated, he sent a representative to the climate conference in Dubai to say, no, don't worry, Argentina's still on board. That is a traitorous act. That is an act that a broken promise before you've even finished being inaugurated. And I haven't stopped whinging about it since he became president. And I don't plan to until he finally exits. And even after he exits, I'll still remind people that he betrayed the people of Argentina with that broken promise. It is important to hold these leaders accountable to the lies that they tell. And so if Trump goes down that path, he will make himself a liar. He will make himself a complete liar. You can't promise peace and no more wars and support Israel in their forever war of greater Israel, slaughtering every single person in every single country around them so they can expand Israel like Netanyahu declared he wants to do at the UN. There is no justification for any of these wars to continue. It is a joke, beyond a joke. It's an atrocity of the highest magnitude. They all need to stop. And people always get upset with me when I hammer this point because somehow Israel has an exemption. People think that Israel is God's chosen people, therefore they can just slaughter tens of thousands of children because God wants kids to die, apparently. It's just the most insane religious belief I've ever seen in my life, especially coming from Christians. I find it deplorable and beyond offensive that people would represent God in that way, that he wants children murdered. Give me a break. And if you believe that, I really challenge you, because a lot of conservative media is like, oh, anti-Semitism, our greatest ally. Most major conservative media talks that way, and I won't be part of it. And Candace Owens, in fact, was tweeting about it the other day. She was saying, I'm so sick of conservative media doing this, being too afraid to call this out, too afraid to call out the fact that a lot of the censorship demands are coming from these groups. The fact that the US government tried to introduce legislation that would essentially ban Christianity in the New Testament per the IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism just earlier this year or last year. IHRA, let me get the right date on that. When was that? May 1st. I'm not going to be quiet about a group that's trying to make Christianity illegal. I'm not going to be quiet about that. I don't care how many people I offend by it. I don't care how many members of our audience think that I'm somehow, not doing God's will by continuing to raise the fact that they tried to make Christianity illegal in the United States and the Bible illegal, and some people still can't understand what's going on here. It should make you sick. It should make you sick, just like 40,000 dead women and children should make you sick, and churches being bombed should make you sick. Dear God, I hope people wake up. All right. I've let that out now. Someone's saying I ride with Mike Adams. He's been very outspoken lately. I don't agree with everything Mike says. I don't need to agree with everything Mike says, but I consider him a friend. He's a good man. And he's been putting out some interesting information lately. Labour Party Facebook page, after asking, did you take the proper oath? They said, that is hate speech. I could get in trouble. I don't know if that's real, but I'm not surprised. If the Labour Party on Facebook told you that asking them a question was hate speech, that's perfectly in line with Labour's belief systems. Someone saying Harvey MLA is brilliant, very freedom-oriented, better than anyone I've heard. You should hear him blasting everyone at the WEF meeting, and I think a UN meeting too. Weird about Paris, though. Yeah, no. Sorry, I don't mean to say no to you. I have my sincere concerns about him. A bunch of Argentina's gold has just gone missing and he doesn't know where it is. On top of that, when he was at the WEF, he was actually talking, and I warned about this, and I seem to be the only person that sees through some of these things in conservative media, okay? Because everywhere in major conservative media, the bigger names, everyone's like, oh, Harvey MLA, and he's the first to do Doge, and look at all these government departments he's slashed. Has anyone looked into whether he's actually replacing them with AI, which is in line with what the New World Order actually wants? And his meeting at his speech at the WEF, go back and listen to it again. In fact, I did an assessment of this speech on Media Blackout. Everyone's saying, wow, he just blasted them. Listen to his words very carefully. He was talking about the benefits of privatization, and he actually said to them at the end, keep going, Argentina's with you. And what has Harvey MLA recently done? Sold a whole bunch of public infrastructure to private corporations. Maybe I'll cover this next time. I was going to also do the Spain floods this time around, but I didn't get around to it because this is more pressing. He's just sold a bunch of public infrastructure. He's selling off things like rivers and roads and things of this nature to private companies. Why? Well, probably because BlackRock's eventually going to own everything. It's all going on a digital ledger and you won't have any access to it. So this is a very serious concern. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening, but I do have a lot of question marks about Harvey MLA. Now, if he really does exit the Paris Agreement like he said he would, great. I will applaud that. I'll always give people credit when they do the right thing. But I still think that a large majority of the population doesn't fully understand the goals of the New World Order, which is ultimately the mark of the beast. That's what it's always been about. Cashless society. You can't buy or sell, whether you believe in the religious part of this or not, that they do. And their goal is to make it so that you can't buy or sell unless you have this mark. And it will get there one day. It will get there one day. It seems like we're racing to there. But let's see how things play out. Let's see how things play out over the next few months, whether they go down the route of cyber, whether they're really going to blow us all into smithereens with nuclear war. It's possible, guys. I don't fear it. I'm not saying it to make
other people afraid, pardon. I'm just being honest with you. We shouldn't fear, we shouldn't fear death. I'm not hoping for it. I want to do whatever I can to stop it, and I plan on focusing some of our content around that next week. But I'm certainly not going to live in fear of these things, and I hope you don't either. And my faith strengthens me in that, and I encourage everyone to explore that themselves. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, again, to like, share. If you're watching this on Rumble, subscribe or follow our channel. It's free. Everything we do is free. And get on our X account. If you're watching on Rumble and you're not following us on X, please go and do that. And I'm just going to open the page up for you now. Or if you're watching this on X and you haven't followed yet, I don't know how that really works, but please go and give us a follow on X at Zeee Media Official or Zeee_media. Hey, look, there's me. There's two of me talking. Go and do that. And the best thing that you can do, the best way to support us is to share our content, get the word out of the things that we're warning about. Zeee Media has been ahead of its time many times over. We were warning about Julian Grant, a year before she actually started actively behaving like a tyrant, because we have a tendency to be ahead on some of these things, not saying all of them, but some of them. So we encourage people to continue sharing our content and supporting our sponsors. That's how you keep us going and getting really, really great vetted products from trusted people while you're at it. All right, everyone, we will see you next week. God bless. Good night. Have a wonderful weekend. And don't let any of this weigh you down. And I know it won't. I know it won't, because you're all still here and fighting. Thank you for your fight. Zeee Media is proud to partner with freedom-loving businesses like Gold Bullion Australia Group, Australia's leading dealer of gold and silver bullion. In such uncertain times in the market, many are switching to lasting physical assets like gold and silver rather than depending on the crumbling financial system. GBA Group is an Aussie partner you can trust. They have a huge range of available gold and silver at competitive prices, a friendly, experienced team on standby for all of your questions, are family-owned and have been specialising in precious metals for over 40 years. They're looking forward to helping anyone that has come from Zeee Media, so click the link in the description below, visit one of their offices now spread across Sydney, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne and Singapore, or call 1300 618 363 and consider securing your wealth today.